Hello, my name is Kelly Bluen. I am a certified Zentangle teacher. Welcome to episode 11 of my Coastal Calm series. That means we have already done 10 episodes with all different beautiful ocean themed patterns. So we have 5 days left in this series, today and then the next 4 days. And then sadly, this one will be done. But I highly recommend you going back and rewatching some of your favorites and playing around with some of the tangles that you have learned and putting them together so you can still have a lot of fun with it. All right, Coastal Calm, I've got my little sketchbook. I have a 2.5 by 2.5 inch little paper tile. This one is just cut from watercolor paper. I've got my micron pen, a graphite pencil, and my blending tool today is a Q-tip. You can get the pen and the pencil and real beautiful paper tiles from Zentangle.com. But also you can use whatever you have on hand. Okay, we're going to start inside our sketchbook today. I love this tangle, but it is a little bit tricky to get the hang of it. So we're going to take a few minutes to practice and hopefully it will make sense to you. Okay? All right, episode 11, and this one is called Starfish. By Orly Natalie. Or Natalie, I don't know. I'm so sorry if I said that incorrectly. Okay, so some of these patterns are exactly as they sound. This is going to resemble a starfish when we are done. And it's so beautiful. So don't get frustrated as we're making it. There are a lot of different little steps. Okay, I'm gonna start with pencil instead of pen for this one, just so we can kind of figure this out together. Okay, I'm gonna start with a little dot. And our starfish is going to have 5 points. So I'm gonna put one here, a little line. And then almost like this is like the head of a person, we want some arms and some legs. And that's kind of how we get 5 fairly evenly spaced little arms. You can move them if you need to. And that whole thing is about the width of my finger, so I didn't make it too big. All right, then I'm going to switch to my pen. And we're going to do these little raindrops that are pointed at the top, rounded at the bottom. And you can make it exactly like that, or you can get a little fancy like that, however you want. But these are just going to bump into each other. I guess that middle is a little more pointed than round. I didn't realize that when I was making the first time. Like it's a little more like this. You know, pick your shape, but I guess it's got more of a pointy bottom. Okay, now that we have that first beautiful little star, we need to extend out these little starfish legs or appendages. I'm not even exactly sure. So to do that, I'm actually going to draw a circle on this outer area. It helps me, and maybe it'll help you, but I'm gonna kind of go around a few times until I get it looking fairly even. And I'm using pencil. This is not necessary for the actual drawing, but it helps me make sure that these appendages are of similar lengths, if that makes sense. Okay. I'm going to go back to my pen, but you can use pencil if you wish. And I'm going to go in between these 2 points, and I'm going to go right out here. So in between the 2 points and out here, and I'm going to make a circle. In between these 2 points, come out here, make a circle, out here. These do not have to be perfectly spaced, but I do think it helps us keep a little bit of perspective. Okay, are we ready? So when the Zentangle company, when they created their 3.5 by 3.5 inch tiles, let me see if I can grab one from here. These tiles like this, one thing special about them is that you can turn them as you work. If you're working in a sketchbook, it's a little bit more difficult to turn your paper. So we have these little books that are easy to turn, and we are going to turn them a little bit today. So I'm going to put one of these circles towards the top, and then I'm going to make an S shape. My S shape is going to begin on the right hand side. It's going to come up, around, and down into that little space between. So I go up, around, and down. It's basically an S shape, except that we don't continue around. I'm going to turn and do the next one and show you. I'm going to start on the right hand side, up, around, and down into that little space. Up, down, around. And you don't really have to go up, you're just basically going over. I feel like that's the most difficult part, just getting those S shapes in there and having them be similar lengths. Okay, are you ready for the next step? I'm going to turn again so that this little circle is towards the top of my work area. And now I'm going to go on this inside edge, bump out like a little belly, and I'm going to land down on this, on the tip of this little petal. So watch me. I'm going to kind of come down here, go out, and land. And I like giving it a little bit of a belly. I'm going to turn my book to the left so that I've got the next circle up on the top. And I'm going to follow this down a bit, come out, give it a little belly, and land on the top of that petal. The next one. We're always going to the right on these, knocking things off of our workspace as we go. Out and in. So these last two got kind of narrow. I like that first one a little bit better, but it's okay. This is our practice book. Okay, now we're gonna go back up to that top circle again. And now this time I'm just gonna give a C curve that comes from the top and it comes down here and lands at the top of that petal behind it. So watch again. I'm gonna go off the top here and come down. It's just a C curve. It doesn't need to be an S shape at all, but you want it to sort of extend from that top part. Okay, so watch again. Come from the top and down. Going to the left side now. What do you think? Do you think it looks like a starfish? I think it looks pretty cool. All right, there's one more little detail that she does, and I don't know if I'm going to do this detail when we do it on our paper or not, but I want to put it in here because it is part of the step out, and that is that now we go in between these areas and we give like a little, almost like a little M shape that sort of brings those together. See that? Kind of an extension of that. And the last thing she does is gives this center line a tethered aura, which means you're going to start at the point, come out a little bit, and go back into the point. There's our starfish. Lots of steps, but such a beautiful beachy themed tangle. Okay, are we ready to put it on our tile? It took us almost 15 minutes just to practice this one. Okay, get my little 2.5-inch tile here, keeping my book nearby in case I need a reference. And I'm going to begin with my pencil. And I'm going to put a dot in the middle. Just guessing where the middle is. I think I'm over a bit. I'm going to go here instead. I'm going to put in that short little line very lightly with my pencil. And I want that to be, I don't know how big that is. It's not very big. And then we do the little arms and the legs. Then you just glance at it. I can tell this one is really wide and that one's narrow, so maybe I'll move my lines a little bit. And when I put my finger over it, it's the full width of my finger. I want that center to be a decent size, not too tiny. Then I'm going to put in my little teardrop shapes or pointed ovals, whatever you want them to be. And you can do a basic shape like that, or you can make the outside have a little bit of a curve like we did on here. Those lines are just guides. If you end up making yours a little bit different, it's okay. All right, once you get those in, we're gonna make that big circle around the outside. You can decide how large or small you want your starfish to be. I want to give myself almost a pencil width around, maybe not quite a pencil width, but I'm just going to kind of map this out. Like, look at what an awful circle I made. I'm just going to go back in, round it out a little bit. Again, we just want these to have similar arms or appendages. Does not need to be exact. I can already tell that, I think I'm going to change this a little bit down here, that my circle, I made my center up a little high. I'm going to adjust that. Okay. I did it. Now we go from that little crevice here and we go out from the center and put a circle. Go out from here, put a circle. I put mine in a little bit because it felt too far away. Out from that little crevice, put a circle. And I think part of the magic, if you were adding this to a regular tile, is that some could be really stretched out and some could be shorter. They don't need to be even. But just while I'm teaching you how to make it, I feel like even feels better until we get comfortable with it. So that's where we're going to start. Okay, got your 5 circles in. Now we're going to do those S shapes. I'm going to move it so that my circle is towards the top of my workspace. I'm going to start on the right hand side, but I'm going to do my S shape over to the left and down into that little V shape. Don't be afraid to make that nice and wiggly and kind of go up and over a little bit. Turn my tile. That S shape again. Mine are definitely uneven and different lengths, and I love it. Now I'm going to take my eraser and I'm going to, as long as my ink is dry, I'm going to get rid of those pencil lines in the middle and the pencil lines on the edge. There we go. Okay, I'm going to put the circle on the top again. And now remember, we're going to come along that inside edge. And then right when we get like below that circle, we're going to give it a nice belly and land on this one. And it's okay to go a little bit big. So I come in here, jump out, and land. Go on that inside, out, and land. It reminds me of the little bells on the top of a jester hat. They look like they're all moving and wiggling. Okay, I'm going to put that circle on top again, and now I'm going to go to the left, and this is just a C shape. It doesn't have to be wiggly. I come from that top, and I come down to that point behind it. Come from the top, make that C shape down to that petal. Always on the left now. Once you get those done, you're going to do that tethered aura on the inside. Start at the point, come out in aura, and then back in. We're doing that center line. And with this little center line, there are different ways that you can decorate this. In Orly, I believe her name is, in her examples, she does one where she fills this with little orbs and darkens it in. In another one, she puts some texture on this left-hand side of each of these, and that looks really cute. The one that I'm going to do, though, is that technique where we come up from the bottom and we ink in a little ways up and then we stop. And then we come from the top and we ink down a little ways and we stop. And we give a little rough edge there, and it gives the slightest little reflection. So we come down and we go up. Again, give that little rough edge there. Just continue on each one. I feel like it's a little blurry. There we go. That seems better. There are a lot of steps to this little pattern, or tangle, but it's so pretty, it's worth it. Okay, on the inside edge, I didn't do this in the practice one because it's just an option, like a little embellishment, but we can put in small little shapes that match the larger ones right inside each of those. And then I'm going to turn it again, so I've got the little circle on top, and in these two sides we can leave them empty, which is beautiful. But one thing that she shows is where we do an aura line on each of these edges, but so lightly, and then we lift our pen a little bit and come down, and it just gives this little bit of a break in the line that looks so delicate. Inside aura, lift your pen, giving that little break in the line. In one of her examples, she does this and fills that whole area. Okay, I am going to add that little M shape on the outside. So basically I'm just mimicking this shape here, coming off the edge, giving it a little dip, and then up into there. I feel like it kind of pulls it together a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and add that. If you don't really want to, you don't need to. Okay, I think mine needs one more aura on one side of that middle. Okay, our starfish is done. We're just gonna do a little frame and some embellishing. It's gonna be amazing. So right now, before we do the frame part, do you remember Sand Swirl from a few days ago? We're going to do a little bit of that. But instead of just doing like a curve and a circle, I'm gonna come from the corner and I'm gonna give it more of like an S shape to kind of match what we already have going on there. And then I'm gonna aura, but when I come back down here, I'm going to tether it, which means I'm just gonna come right back to that same point. And then I'm gonna do a little one up the side like this. And I'm going to do the same thing and come back down into that point. And if it bumps into your little starfish, even better. I'm going to add a couple of circles that are like little bubbles floating around. Ink in that space in between. I'm going to do one over here. Just coming off the edge this time, not the corner. And I'll do a little one this way. And add a couple of bubbles. wherever you want. Do one over here. Put in a bubble or two. And one on this side. Does not matter which way they come from. It does not matter which direction they go. Just a fun way to add a little bit of background, a little bit of movement and texture. Add in a couple of bubbles if you'd like. And then for my frame, I did not do it in pencil first, but I'm going to give a very narrow frame that's just going to go really close to the edge, and it's going to lift up and jump over the different shapes that are coming across it. If we had drawn the frame first, we might have been afraid to embellish going over the edge. So it's fun sometimes to add your frame at the end. All right, put your initials in there somewhere. Let's do a little bit of shading. That one took a very long time, but turned out so cool. Okay, I'm going to go in the center. I'm going to put just a little bit of graphite in the bottom of each of these first little 5 star parts that we made. Push them out slightly. Then I'm going to go on the outside of that star shape. Not the little ones, but these like medium-sized ones. Soften that slightly. I think I need to get a new Q-tip. I took some of the fuzz off of this one, and now it's a little bit hard. I think if I use the side of it, it will work. See how we're getting some depth? All of a sudden, these little arms and appendages kind of look like they're sinking down into there a little bit. I'm going to go around the outside edge of this whole starfish. And then I'm just going to soften that by pushing it into the paper a little bit and pulling it away. I'm going to go get a new Q-tip. I'll be right back. Okay, So I'm softening that and I'm pulling it away from the starfish and out into the abyss, out into the tile a bit. Look at that lovely shadow back there. Now, if you wanted to, you could go all along the inside edge of our frame again, which we've done before. You could also go around these swirls and kind of help them pop off the page. But I sort of like that just the starfish is popping up, and we don't have to really highlight these ones back here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a little bit of shading in the bottom points of each of these. I'm going to push that slightly up into those curves. And with my little blending tool or Q-tip, I can take some of that graphite and put a little bit in those circles. You don't really need a lot of it, just a little bit of shadow. And even on these circular ends, give a little bit of depth to those. And then, as we've done before, if you want, with your pencil, you can put in some little lines or waves in the background and soften it with your blending tool to make it look a little bit more like it's laying on maybe some rippled sand or some water. So if you want to do that, you can, but I think I'm going to be done. I'm just going to take my little blending tool here. I'm going to put some graphite on it, and I'm just going to go a little bit over the background. I'm not drawing anything, you can, but just giving that background a little bit of darkness. And there we go, starfish, and it looks like a starfish, and it's a really, really fun one to play with. I hope you enjoyed it. And 4 more days, so we will see you again tomorrow. Thank you so much. Follow me on Facebook at Let's Tangle. And if you want, you can subscribe to my newsletter at www.minsofzen.com. Or you can click the link below in the description of this video if you would like to follow me on Patreon to have commercial-free videos. So click the link. It's $5 a month if you'd like to support me and have commercial-free videos. Thank you so much. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.